Assalamu alaikum, may peace be upon you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. This is Edward Ahmed Mitchell, the Deputy Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, welcoming you to today's episode of CAIR on Air. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope all of you are doing well and staying safe as we get ready for hopefully a holiday break for many of you. We want to discuss an issue that's, I think, very significant, very concerning that we've seen in various parts of the world, including the state of New Jersey, and that is the issue of Muslim houses of worship being targeted, being intimidated, being threatened as part of the far-right extremist Hindutva movement. To discuss what's been going on in the state of New Jersey and how the community there is responding to this threat, happy to bring on our special guest right now, the Communications Director of CAIR New Jersey. Let's bring her on. Assalamu alaikum, Dina. How are you?
Alaikum salam, Brother Edward. I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
No complaints at all. So, Dina, tell us what in the world is going on. We heard about an incident in which a vehicle was driven through a mosque with horrific images on it, essentially blaming Muslims in New Jersey for a terrorist attack that happened in India years ago. Can you tell us more about this incident and other incidents that are drawing your attention there in New Jersey?
Yeah, of course. So in late November, the last weekend of November, on Saturday, it was brought to our attention that a truck with a digital billboard on it was visiting several mosques in central Jersey, and the billboards had displayed these very anti-Muslim and very hateful messages on them. The messages were surrounding the 2008 Mumbai attacks, and they were essentially insinuating that Muslims in New Jersey are somehow responsible or should respond to these attacks and make a statement or feel some sort of shame for something that they were obviously completely independent of doing.
So, what was the response in the community? I mean, even though there was no act of violence here, obviously a very concerning incident, and someone would take the time and effort to do this. And it comes after another incident in which a bulldozer was driven through an India Day parade, also in New Jersey. Can you tell us about that incident?
Yeah. So that incident occurred in August, and that's what really put Hindutva or Hindu supremacy in New Jersey on our radar. So it was on our radar before, but then this really thrust it into the limelight. We saw that the Indian Business Association, they had rented a bulldozer and they plastered images of Hindu supremacist leaders on the bulldozer, and they marched it through the India Independence Day parade in August. This is obviously very offensive. It's very in some ways it's threatening to Muslims or to Indian Muslims specifically, because the bulldozer, in the context of India, it carries a symbolism of destruction. And when Muslim homes in India are being bulldozed by Modi and his government using bulldozers, and then you bring this bulldozer to a New Jersey India Independence Day parade, and you have the images of Modi and his government officials on this bulldozer, it's obviously sending a very clear message of intimidation, of harassment to New Jersey's Indian American Muslims.
So tell us, Dean, about the community response to this. Obviously, we're all Muslims. We fear Allah. It's going to take more than an empty bulldozer and a truck driving around to make us nervous. But nonetheless, it's unacceptable, right? How's the community responding to these incidents?
Yeah, the community has been standing very strong, alhamdulillah. As you said, it's going to take a little bit more than a bulldozer and a truck to intimidate us or to push us, out of the, into the shadows. But nonetheless, it is worrying, because you mentioned earlier that this wasn't an act of violence, but we have to keep in mind that violence, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It happens, there's a buildup to it, and we're concerned because this could be a buildup to violence. We also see that this is, the Hindu supremacist groups, they're using a lot of the tactics that we saw happening in the months after 9/11, when Muslims were being asked to account for something that occurred independent of them. American Muslims are being asked, to respond to this attack, to respond, make statements, to apologize for it. And when you don't, or when when you're just simply existing, you see yourself being victim to all these different types of violence, whether it's state violence, whether it's violence in the form of war, whether it's violence in the form of just your everyday life, like you're going to to the supermarket and you're being harassed, you are at school and you can't pray, or you're at work and you can't keep your beard. So we see, words matter, and images that are being used, they also matter. And when we see this when we see the bulldozer, and when we see the truck with this digital billboard on it, driving to at least 4 different mosques and driving on main roadways, main highways, where people are also seeing, these billboards. So people in the street are seeing it, but people in the mosque are also seeing it. So it's twofold. You have the non-Muslims who are um, seeing these images, and they're asking questions, and they're forming thoughts on this. And then you also have the Muslims who are at the mosques, who are going for events, going to pray, going to build their communities, and they see these trucks approaching them in the mosques, and they're just, it's a form of harassment, it's a form of intimidation. Obviously it did not work, but it's nevertheless, it's very concerning.
Yeah. Imagine you're a young Muslim child who's just coming out to the mosque to pray or go to an event or something with your family, and you see a giant truck rolling by with images of, I don't know, dead bodies and gunfire and explosions. And your parents have to explain to you why your community is being targeted in this way, why you, a child, are being held responsible for something that some extremists did in a different country 13 years ago that had nothing to do with you or your community. It makes no sense. So we know the Muslim community has responded very forcefully. How about local political leaders and your neighbors in New Jersey? What's their response been to this?
Yeah. So just on that note, very quickly, Brother Edward, there is also one of the mosques that were targeted is also a full-time K through 12 school. So there are students and children regularly on those premises, and it's both like it's intimidating to them, and it's also a safety concern because you have this truck going through the parking lot and not worrying about the mosque population. But community leaders and community advocates in the area have been very supportive, alhamdulillah. They, the mosque leaders, they organized an interfaith event, and we saw a huge turnout, alhamdulillah, from both interfaith leaders as well as Muslim leaders in the area. The FBI is investigating the incident. The Attorney General's office reached out to us proactively and, showed their support. And they also, they've been very supportive of us. They're also investigating. Law enforcement, local police are investigating. And we also saw Governor Phil Murphy issuing a statement on his own, condemning what had occurred. We also saw Senator Menendez doing the same, and the Attorney General as well. We did reach out to Senator Cory Booker, and we're awaiting his response to, bringing this on, to his attention, putting it on his radar, and letting him know what had occurred. And we're in the process of waiting for his response.
Well, that's good to hear. Look, New Jersey has one of the largest Muslim populations in the United States, and I believe you all have the largest number of mosques. Or is that my imagination?
I'm not sure about mosques, but we do have the largest population. Yeah.
I knew one of those things is true. So, but it's the fact that this can happen there, concerning, but it's reassuring to know the community again is strong, undeterred, unbowed, and that you've got local leadership who's also recognizing how problematic this is. So going forward, what are the plans for the New Jersey Muslim community to promote justice for all people, including Indian Muslims and Kashmiri Muslims who are being intimidated and threatened by this? Going forward, what are your major goals in New Jersey for the community there?
Yeah, so we are working actively towards informing about Hindu supremacist movements. We don't want it to become something that people later learn about, because there isn't a large concern for it, or there isn't this overwhelming concern that there should be. A lot of people don't understand it as a form of Islamophobia or anti-Muslim sentiment. Some people would believe that it's just like an Indian issue or an Indian-Pakistan issue, but in reality, it is a Muslim issue, and it's also just it's a Hindu supremacist movement. So anybody who's not Hindu essentially is in the face of danger, or they will face discrimination by these groups. So we are definitely working towards being proactive in informing, as well as calling out incidents like these when they do occur, calling for accountability, calling for people to stand in solidarity with those who are harassed by groups like these.
And what's sad is, even Hindu Americans who speak up for human rights, like Hindus for Human Rights, they're targeted as well, right? If you speak up for the human rights of people in India or Kashmir, you're on the deck, whether or not you're a Hindu doing it, a Muslim doing it, a Christian, or someone who's secular, or anyone else. So we're happy to know that CAIR New Jersey is standing up for everyone so they can speak their minds and stand up for justice here and abroad. And again, it's going to take more than a billboard and a bulldozer to silence the work that you're doing there, inshallah. So the community nationwide is with you all. We support you, and we're happy to see that so many people in New Jersey do as well. Dina, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching today's episode of CAIR on Air. Again, hope you're doing well. Please stay safe in the coming weeks. Enjoy some time off with your friends and family. And inshallah, we'll see you again in the new Gregorian year, inshallah. Until then, assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you.